Okay, we're back. So here he is trying to make his way to find a boat to help tug. But the rudest of all was his great transatlantic liner, which blasted him right out of the water. Yikes. It was too much for little Toot. He wasn't wanted anywhere or by anyone. With his spirits drooping, he let the tide carry him wherever it willed. He was so lonesome. So lonesome. Floating aimlessly downstream, he grew sadder and sadder until he was utterly miserable. He was sunk so deep in his own despair he didn't even notice that the sky had grown dark and that the wind was whipping up into a real storm. Oh boy. Oh boy. Suddenly he heard a sound that was like no sound he had ever heard before. It was the ocean. The great ocean that little Toot had never seen. And the noise came from the waves as they dashed and pounded against him. Yikes. But that wasn't all. Against the black light climbed a brilliant flaming rocket. When little Toot looked hard, he saw, jammed between two huge rocks, an ocean liner which his father had towed many times up and down the river. Uh-oh. There's the ocean liner. I think it was lightning. It was truly a terrible thing to see. Little Toot went wild with excitement. He began puffing those silly balls of smoke out of his smokestack. Wonder what he's going to do. And as he did, a wonderful thought struck him. Why, those smoke balls could possibly be seen way up the river where his father and grandfather were. So he puffed a signal. S-O-S. You know what that means? You know what that means. Way up the river they saw it. Of course, they had no idea who was making the signals, but they knew it meant, come quickly. So they all dropped what they were doing to race to the rescue. They saw it. The boats all saw the SOS. Out of many wharves steamed a great fleet. Big boats, little boats, fat ones and skinny ones. So they're all coming to the rescue. With Big Toot himself right in the lead with an admiral at the head of his fleet. Just in time, too, because little Toot, still puffing out his SOS, was hard to stay afloat. So even little Toot was starting to struggle now. But here comes Dad. One wave spun him around till he was dizzy, and another tossed him up so high he was glad when a spiral-shaped wave came along to glide him down. Oh, boy. Before he could split the salt water out of his smokestack, still another wave came along and tossed him up. He looked as though he'd never get down. My goodness, look at those waves. All this was pretty awful for a tugboat that was used to smooth water of the river. What made it terrifying was the fact that out of the corner of his eye, when he was hung up on a wave, little Toot saw that the fleet wasn't able to make headway against the fierce seas. Oh no, the big boats are having a hard time getting there. Even Grandfather Toot was bellowing. He had never seen such a storm. Little Toot was scared, very scared. Oh my. Where he was, the channel was like a narrow bottleneck with the whole ocean trying to pour at once. That was why the fleet couldn't make any headway. The force of the seas simply swept them back. Oh boy, this is a very bad storm. Indeed, they were on the verge of giving up entirely when suddenly, above the storm, they heard a gay, familiar toot. Uh-oh, what are they hearing? There's those black clouds. It was little Toot, not wasting his strength, butting the waves as they had done, but bouncing from crest to crest like a rubber ball. The pounding hurt like everything, but little Toot kept right on going. And when Big Toot looked out to see through his binoculars, he saw the crew on the great vessel throw a line to little Toot. It was a wonderful thing to see. When the line was made fast, little Toot waited for a long moment. And then, when a huge wave swept under the liner, lifting it clear of the rocks, he pulled with all his might and the ocean liner came free. Look at little Toot there. Wow! The people on board began to cheer, and the whole tugboat fleet insisted upon little Toot's escorting the great boat back into the harbor. Little Toot was a hero, and Grandfather Toot blasted the news all over the river. Well, after that, little Toot became quite a different fellow. He even changed his tune. And it is said that he can haul as big a load as his father can. That is, when Big Toot hasn't a very big load to haul. The end. Good book, Little Toot. See you again. Bye-bye.